What is up, everybody? Happy Friday to you. We got 1 minute left before we're going to get this party started. Happy Friday live stream to you, fellas. I want to know where you're joining from today. It's always so cool getting to see where everybody's hopping in from. And do me a favor, if you can, just hit that like button right now if you're somebody who's hopping into the live stream, because it always seems to take 10 or 15 minutes for people to actually find the live stream or for it to be notified. So maybe if we all hit the like button, it'll tell YouTube to send it on out. So it's going to be a good day. I'm excited to hop on the live stream with Colby Griner today. So let me know if it's looking good, sounding good in the comments. Well, welcome back to another Friday live stream, guys. I want to welcome to the live stream a few of my friends here as we get this live stream going. So we've got Larry jumping in from Huntington Beach. Man, Larry, you're always a faithful one. I appreciate you jumping in. We got Sky coming in from Detroit. And we've got Marshall Swift coming to us from Beaumont, Texas. Man, Marshall, how is the EV line arrays treating you? You know, it's been a while now. Marshall came up and they actually purchased our old system before we moved out of our worship center, and they installed it in their worship center. It was a great system, and I hope it's treating you guys well down there in Texas. Kevin says, joining from the production warehouse at Compassion Christian Church. This will be great to listen while I pull gear for a conference coming up next week. I think Colby will be at the conference too. Well, I believe Colby's on staff there, right? So that would be great if he's there. I wonder what the conference is, because yeah, I love church conferences. Marshall says, so well, we're loving it. Awesome, man, that's really cool. Really great to hear. Man, it's been quite the week for me. We are in the final stages of AVL prep, and there's so much happening and so much going on. Guys, it's just chaos. Like, I had nothing set up for this live stream today until I dropped my daughter off at school. I was like, I got to get this stuff back together, because I had crap everywhere in this office, y'all. It was a total mess. And, I'm doing other videos for other people that are giving us some products to use. And so I had stuff all over the place. But I can't wait to show you guys the final thing. I hope you've watched some of the videos of the remodel that we're doing in our worship center. It's been an exciting journey over really since I think about this time in 2023. So about 3 years ago, we began this process. And it's neat that we can kind of see the finish line just, a few weeks ahead. But it also means that AVL integrators are coming Monday with a big team to try and wrap this thing up and get it going. And then Ryland has to learn how to use Onyx. So if any of you guys know how to use Onyx, give me your email. That would be great. And I can know who to holler at if I have troubles. Josh hopping in from Watoto, Kampala, Uganda. It's 7 p.m. there. Man, I love Uganda. I loved Watoto Church when I got to visit there a few years back. I went and filmed for an organization that we partner with here at our church that has a place there where they take care of the vulnerable children, and we got to visit Watoto, and I was blown away. Like that in Kampala, Uganda, this church is just doing things with excellence. And so that's the cool thing, is like we're all over the world, but we're all trying to do the same thing. So I hope that on today's live stream that you guys will glean some stuff, and that we can kind of help each other out as iron sharpens iron, right? That we'll be able to just keep doing great things for God's glory. All right, guys. So without further ado, I want to bring in today's guest to the live stream. You guys know him. He's just, I want to call him like the king of short form church tech content, because he does it right. So guys, help me welcome to the stream, the one and only Colby Griner. Let's go, baby.
Thank you.
So tell us about this conference that's happening. Is it at your church that he was talking about?
It is, yep. So we host it's a church leadership conference. We host it every other year. So this is the year we're hosting it, which it's this weekend coming up. So we're busy preparing for all the logistics of that. We've got an LED wall loading in as we speak behind us. You probably can see right there. Oh, right there. Boom. So they're getting signal and everything knocked out on the processor side for that. But yeah, it's a conference for church pastors, executive leaders, communication directors, production, the entire like church kind of like ecosystem for leadership. Wow. So yeah, we're excited for that.
So Colby, if people, for some reason, the algorithm has not showed them your stuff, and introduced you to them, can you just kind of give a brief overview of maybe even like briefly, like how you got to where you're at and what you're doing currently where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. So I started with production just as a couple years prior to COVID when I just was volunteering in my church. I was in high school at the time. And so I was looking for a way to, get active and serve in the church that I was attending as my home church growing up. And so I was always I remember like going to concerts and stuff and paying more attention to like the lights and LED and stuff like that than the actual like performers and stuff. And so naturally I just gravitated towards like doing production in church. It's a really great environment to like learn stress-free. Any church will hire anybody that's eager to, or even hire, or serve as a volunteer that's even eager and willing to help learn ProPresenter or run lights or whatnot. So that's kind of how I got my start in production early in high school. COVID hit. I was hired part-time on staff at that church kind of right before COVID, transitioning into the COVID era, helping like produce services, remotely recording everything and editing it in the middle of lockdown and stuff. And so I was in college at the time, and I was an aviation major. I ended up changing to production and film. And so kind of just like a full 180 path change with career-wise from what I originally thought. And so from there, I moved full-time to where I currently am, which is Compassion Christian Church. I'm an associate production director. Kevin, who was commenting earlier, he's the other associate production director. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am now. I oversee all like video systems, anything from volunteers running cameras to the cameras themselves to the signal path back to encoding. We have 7 campuses, so it's a lot of video signal back and forth. We use Resi for that. We could talk more about that if you're interested. But yeah, we're a pretty large church with a lot of video signals going back and forth, and we link up during sermon and some hosting moments and stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. So if you guys, aren't following Colby over on Insta and, TikTok, I guess, if you're doing that kind of thing, he's always posting really helpful content, like super helpful and honestly, like witty and funny, very punny. So I appreciate that, the work that goes into that, finding the perfect little meme to go with your stuff. But one thing that I noticed, not too long ago is that you got the chance to run cameras, I believe. Is it this one right here?
I think that was the year prior.
Okay.
If you go down a little bit to the right, that's right there. Yeah, that's this year.
Okay, gotcha. So you've ran it now 2 years in a row, and maybe more. I don't know, but this was news to me that you were running camera at Passion. So can you kind of share some about this experience?
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty big production. There's a really large crew, and it all comes together really quickly. So yeah, I got the call that to be camera operator. The previous year, I was like a floor handheld roamer that was wireless, and this year I was the stage right handheld. There's two handhelds on stage, and I was stage right. Jack was the other one on stage left, and so yeah, kind of it's a busy week, lots going on, a lot of sessions, not a lot of time for rehearsal, so it's really quick, fast paced, but it's a lot of fun.
What kind of rig were you using there?
So last year which was the first year I ran camera, it was all red Raptors and Komodos, Komodo X's, and then this year it was all ARRI Alexa 35s with the new fiber backs.
Have you ever used one of those before?
This was my first time with Ari, and I mean, I will tell you, it looks insane. Like the image quality, there's nothing I've really seen that looks better, especially when you have somebody that's coloring it and shading that knows what they're doing that can make them look really good. But I was like holding the same rig that like was on a dolly and tripod and stuff. So it was, I don't even know how much it weighed, but it was probably over 50 pounds, maybe 60 or 70. Probably not 70, maybe 60.
So it's a good thing you had the easy rig.
Yeah, for sure. It was like Fujinon. It was a 14 to 100 lens. The RE Alexa 35, and then their fiber back. So yeah, it was pretty heavy.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so the setting in this conference, did they have a bunch of windows? Is that something you were having to adjust, settings on the fly and stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, this was at an MLB stadium in Texas. And so, yeah, there's a lot of like big open windows up on the upper bowl just above that section. And so, yeah, there was shaders and stuff. So they were doing all of our like iris control and adjusting everything. So really I was just focusing on framing, focusing, zooming, stuff like that.
Dude, that's awesome. So would you say that like your strength is mainly in the video realm, or are you a guy who's like grown up having to learn it all?
Well, the first church I was talking about, I was like I was a part-time production director, and there was nobody else. So if something broke, it was on me to figure it out or call somebody that knew what they were doing. And so that's kind of like I learned the basics of everything. But as you kind of specialize and stuff, I kind of lean more towards video. So that's kind of what my main focus is. When I originally started production, the first thing I learned was lighting, which I was on Vista. So I have a love for Vista, and I program maybe once or twice a year now, so it's really fun.
Yeah, I love Vista. We're about to give it up for Onyx, but I don't know. Well, we'll see how I like it. Hope Church says that seems like a lot to carry around. That's why you have was it an easy rig, or was that, it looked a little different than an easy rig?
No, so I think easy rig makes 2 or maybe more. There's like the Mini Max, which is the really small one. It's made for think like a small Komodo X with a smaller lens, something lightweight. And then they make I don't know what the bigger model is, but it's a lot heavier duty. It holds a lot more weight and has a bit bigger like backpack type support system.
Gotcha. Man, we got people hopping in from all over the world. So cool to have you guys. Graydon, one of our creative crew members, is in the house, and actually, Graydon, we're going to be reviewing your church's live stream that you submitted in just a little bit. So thank you guys for hopping in. I'm just excited anytime we get to do these, because really it's selfish for me that I get to just bounce ideas off of experts, and then we all get to glean things from each other. And as we look at our live streams and just realize like we can always do something to improve it, to improve the experience for our congregation whenever they're not in the room. And so let's dive into some live stream reviews. I think it's going to be a fun one today. So the first live stream that we're going to review comes from Palmetto Street Church of God, and it gives me the spinning wheel of death here on my Mac. So let's reload that YouTube and see if we... All right, here we go. So let me tell you about their setup, guys. They're rocking Blackmagic Studio 4Ks, one wireless, and then they have some Pocket 6Ks as well as roamers. They've got some POV shots with micro studio cameras. They say they think they've reached their limits with current camera setup and quality of equipment. So maybe that's something we can think through, is like when you don't want to buy more equipment, or you kind of just feel stale, like you've done the same thing over and over, like let's help him think through some new ideas. They run a separate board from front of house for the broadcast mix and Allen Heath SQ7. So let's listen and watch, and you guys chime in the comments with what you're hearing and seeing. right, Colby, that is Palmetto Street Church of God. Johnny Miller submitted that. Johnny, if you're in the chat today, let us know, because that way if we have, any questions, we can ask you directly. Hopefully you're able to join us live today. But I just wanted to start the stream with this song because, it just makes me happy, It's just kind of a bop, and I've never heard it before. But I saw they were using playback multitrack, so it must be popular enough for that. I think they got a unique setup. Colby, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Any initial thoughts?
Well, I have to admit, we cheated a little bit. You sent me the links 2 days ago, so I had time to watch some of these, and I was sitting with my coworkers, Matt and Kevin, and I was asking them for feedback. I was like, what do you guys think of this? And we were all saying, this mix is really good. It sounds really full, and honestly, audio, I think it's great. So yeah, there's that. I think the video director is doing a good job of keeping up energy with the song. This is a really fun, high energy song, and so I feel like the camera movements match that. I feel like a lot of the colors on the cameras, the lighting looks pretty good. I don't have too much to nitpick. Maybe if I were to change one thing, maybe it's a lighting thing with the lead vocalist, the guy that was on the keys. It just feels a little dark to me. But on the other cameras, everything looks fine. So maybe it's just a kind of a dark area of the stage. But yeah, one thing I would point out is if you can get a hosting moment or something, what does that look like?
Let's say one of these when they're doing this little.
Yeah,
welcome.
This feels a little different. The vibe's a lot different than worship as far as from a camera perspective. It feels a little bit higher than eye level, which typically is a little uncomfortable. Whereas the other cameras are moving closer to eye level or the level of congregation, which felt more natural. But obviously there's sometimes logistics of you can't put a camera where there's seats and limitations of building and stuff. But yeah, I think this looks really good.
Yeah, man, I was really impressed with their live stream, and this is a challenge that our church does not have right now, is 17 vocalists on microphones and then a 40-person choir. So that probably presents its own struggles. So have you had to, navigate that? Have you mixed audio or done video for things like this?
Well, I know what I'm good at, and I'm not good at audio, so I let the people that are good at audio take care of that. But I feel like I do know what's good versus bad, and I think this is really good. I feel like I can hear all the vocals; they sound very clear.
I wonder if they're using stems for some of that choir reinforcement.
Yeah, maybe so.
I would.
Yeah, cheat a little bit.
Absolutely.
Is that cheating?
I don't know. That's debatable. Guys, what do you think? Is it cheating to throw a little bit of choir in the tracks just to help, give it a little fullness?
Yeah.
I think lighting for me is that back row of the choir is a little dark.
Definitely.
And it looks like they have projectors instead of LED wall. And so that's just if you can get some ellipsoidals at a little, maybe a higher, steeper angle, and then really shutter those off just below your projection line, that would help. And then I noticed just a couple times where your worship leader there at the keys is kind of ad-libbing on some parts, and the team is leading others, and just knowing the song really well, because there were some times where it was cutting to him, but he wasn't actually doing anything. We all are guilty of doing that, where you don't know who's leading the song or whatever. But just being really conscious of knowing the song, so that drum breakdown's about to come, or he's not leading second verse, or just things like that. What do you think about the lower thirds? I know that this has kind of been done at a few places. Is this something, are y'all doing it like this? What are your thoughts on the way they're doing
Ours are all lower thirds are center aligned. Similar font type. I've seen some churches start left aligned with the line, particularly elevation. They started doing that a couple of months ago, maybe.
Okay.
I don't have an opinion. I think I could go either way.
Yeah. Well, we still do the letterbox thing just because I find sometimes the letters get lost in a white shirt or something like that, and I like center aligned because it seems weird to me. My eyes are drawn down to the left corner of this image, where I often wonder if top centered or bottom centered is better. So I don't know. I like that you're doing them. They look clean, and there's not too much text on them. So good job. Drums, I thought sounded really good. I thought it was a unique drum sound. If we want to listen just a little bit more, I mean, In this song, I think these drum sounds fit. Later on in the service, they're doing some more typical CCM stuff, but this is a little more gospel. So listen to that snare sound, guys. Let me know what you think here.
Come on, if you got joy this morning, declare it. Say this, say what? Everybody say what?
It's definitely not your like deep classic CCM snare that's more like a tom sound. It's definitely more that gospel snare. What are you guys usually doing there at your place for drums and those kinds of sounds?
It's definitely like leans to the more like traditional, or I mean the more contemporary type with like a big snare sound, not more gospel style.
Yeah, which I think it serves it well in this song. It's just the balance of like, you know, later on they're doing just a normal, well, I say normal. And I want that snare to be like beefier, you know, you know, but less like crack. So I wonder for a church like this, is it appropriate to have the dual snare thing? And, or, you know, are you guys using any triggers that you could throw a little trigger guy on there and change the trigger per song to blend in with your, like a maybe middle ground natural snare sound? And then whatever's appropriate for the song, kind of do that. Are you guys using any samples?
We don't use samples. I don't believe. We do use triggers to like control gates on, I think mainly toms and stuff like that. But yeah,
Sure.
you don't use snare triggers on the snare or anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I have a question for you as we end that live stream from Palmetto Street Church of God. I really appreciate you guys submitting. But whenever you're directing, do you direct a lot? I mean, is that something you're doing week in and week out, directing cameras?
We have a team of directors and camera ops that we try to develop. I direct maybe once a month or so. But
okay.
I'm usually in the control room. Like I have a little station I oversee. I respond if cameras are having issues or
but you're still in the
feedback
trenches
to the director in real life. Yeah.
My question would be like, what's the best way to coach our teams and directors whenever you have 8 vocalists on stage? Is there things that we can help them with to know what to do and like who to focus on? Do y'all do any like pre-service rundowns, like coaching of, what are y'all doing to, you know, navigate the service the best way?
So we have a Tuesday night rehearsal where it's really band and like graphics and lights. That's pretty much it. And the producer. And so we'll run the service top to bottom. But the first time camera ops are really hearing the song, I mean, they have access to Planning Center and I'm hoping they're listening to the song and know when they're walking into. But really the first time you're hearing it with what vocals leading what part, and is a vocal swapping like between verses or chorus or whatnot. The first time we hear that is really on Sunday morning, like during rehearsal before service. And so with the director, when I'm directing or when the other director is doing it, we're like making notes of who's leading what verse and what chorus. Because it's caught me off guard so many times where like you cut to somebody for like verse 2 and then they change it on you. And then it's like so awkward because like the vocalist is just like standing there like bopping their head, you know, and the person next to them is leading. And so that's like my pet peeve. I try not to get caught in that. And it's happened to me so many times.
Yep.
But when you have so many vocals like this, what I find it helpful to is to give camera ops a couple of examples of shots. Because if you have every camera op shooting the same person, you limit yourself so much. It's nice, like you're at Passion or whatever, you have 15 cameras. You pretty much have coverage on anything you ever want. But when you have like 4, 5, maybe 3, you really have to like lock in with camera ops to make sure that people are not doubling up coverage, that you have enough weights to keep the energy going, especially with like fast songs. You want to keep the energy going, and it's really hard to do that when you have 2 or 3 cameras.
Yeah, so like at Passion, were you given like a zone of like you're on this side of the stage, we want you to get drums and, you know, bass guitar or whatever? Is that kind of how they had that structured?
Generally, yes. It was easy for me because as a handheld, there's only 2, so pretty much anything on the right side of the stage I took, which was a lot of drums and electric. The other handheld op, there would be times where it would be like really high energy, and one of the sets they had like all the electric guitarists on my side and the drums, and they had like keys, but keys really weren't doing anything. So I would just make eye contact with the handheld op, and like we would just like non-verbally communicate, like, all right, he's gonna come cover drums, and I'm gonna switch to guitar so we can get both covered. But even like the year before, when I was focusing mainly on like vocals and stuff from like the pit, the assistant director. So there's two directors. There's a broadcast director, an IMAG director, and then assistant director who's really calling you like camera 2 to this person, 1 to this person. And so like as a camera op, you're listening to three people talking at one time, which is really hard, and especially trying to tell if you're live or not if you don't have tally. And so yeah, there's really specific guidelines on this camera gets this vocalist, this person gets this. Make sure you have this electric guitar covered, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, man. Well, one thing I forgot to mention about Palmetto that I liked was they had some roamers, a few roamers, but I never saw the roaming cameras. Like they even had some back shots from over the shoulder behind, and maybe because there's so many people on stage, they could kind of blend in. Maybe I just missed them.
Right.
But yeah, I like that, especially in that setting. You know, it might be a little weird with, you know, it's a much brighter setting and have a random camera guy running around the stage. Sometimes I think we can not be conscious of that just because we want to get the shot, you know? So, all right. That's a great submission there. We're going to move on to live stream review number 2. This one comes to us from Graydon, one of our Creative Crew members. You guys can sign up for the Creative Crew because we have a special Creative Crew Zoom session right after we get done with Colby here today. It's $5 a month, fellas. And there's a private Discord channel and lots of fun going on in there as well. But this one comes from Graydon at Calvary Crystal Lake, and their setup involves, let me see here, they've got an FS5 with Tamron 70 to 150 f2.8, then some Sony AX33 camcorders, some Panasonic camcorders, and he's wondering how to make it like fuller audio in the live stream. So like to give it punch, he feels like something is missing. Right now they're just doing a bus mix on the X32. So let's listen and watch, and you guys give some feedback. Thanks, Dustin.
Whose favor rests upon the lowly. I know with you all things are possible. I'm calling on the God of David.
All right, let's see if it amps up a little bit more here. There we go.
On your faithfulness, oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now.
All right, this is Calvary Crystal Lake, and I just wanted to say thanks for submitting. You guys, I can tell that your church has a culture of worship. I just see people engaged all throughout the services. I kind of skimmed around and watched. So that's amazing. I mean, as a guy who's a Baptist baby pew holder, I just appreciate any church that is fully engaged in worship. So, Colby, what thoughts do you have there for Graydon? Just watching a little clip here.
Yeah, so when people have asked me, like, how should they prioritize resources when trying to create a stream from scratch or improve what you already have, there's like the 3 categories, obviously lighting or audio, lighting, and video. And I would put them in that priority where I feel like audio is the most important, because if you have bad audio, it's hard to watch really good looking cameras with bad audio.
Yeah.
Lighting, I think, is second most important, because if you have not great lighting, it will make a really good camera not look good. And then cameras would be my like 3rd priority. And so yeah, with as far as with the audio, I feel like there's a couple of things where it just doesn't feel fully balanced. Like I see instruments and I don't hear them at all. It's really vocal heavy. And so yeah, that's kind of my like feedback on audio. There's I feel like it's potentially a front light issue where maybe they're just using some like LED par on the front where it's really not just a good like front light wash. It feels like definitely like leaning towards the blues and the purples where you're trying to put that light at like 100% white and it's just made with blue and it's making almost everything look like purple.
Yeah, skin tones are kind of leaning more on the purpley side, and it's like, is that the wash lights that they're washing the stage with, and should those be more backlights, and is it catching too much face? Because yeah, it's making people a little purpley, a little blue. I mean, if you only have RGBW pars that you're lighting the stage with, Graydon, you can still correct for that. It'll still look, you can make it look okay on camera. It's just the colors of your other colors might shift a little bit now. But I would rather have skin tones look right on camera and other, LED pars look a little odd if I was having to sacrifice something.
Agreed too. And when it went to that wide shot where I could see a couple people in the crowd, like the back of the guy's head, his skin tones look far more natural than the people on stage, which tells me that I don't think it's necessarily the way the camera's set up with the white balance and stuff. I don't think it's specifically that issue. It's the front light causing that to look like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and so, man, I'm right on board with you, Colby, on that level of priority. In my live streaming course, I talk about King Audio, Queen Lighting, and then we get to video. Like everybody wants to, try and fix our video with new cameras, but you got to have good audio and lighting first, really. So think through that. And Graydon, you're doing your mix just like I am with my X32. So if you want to download my broadcast mix, just search for broadcast on my channel, and you could even go in and see all of our settings. So some tips I would give you: we have electronic drums as well. I think your drum mix is too low in the mix. If you're talking about getting it fuller, that's where I think, that bass guitar guy slapping bass over there with drums just needs to give that good foundation. And the way we do it at our church is I actually run my drums pre-fade on a bus stereo, and then that goes into our band matrix. So that way it doesn't matter what they do in the room. Online, it's going to be pretty much set for the level. And you could even dive into some of the electronic drum tips that I've given where we run samples. So we're running Corey, I forget his last name. If you look at the Think Drum Sample Shop, his samples on our Alesis Brain to have actual drum samples. That's probably down the road from what I would try. I think that vocals, just getting those to a little blend more with some verb, maybe some dual compression stuff on getting those vocals in a group. So you can look at my template there, and that might help. But I totally agree, Colby, like just giving the musicalness of it, like to give some evenness and not just all vocals at the top. It's a balance though in worship, because we want the vocals at the top, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it's just an art form. You're running audio and trying to make everything translate well. So
one thing that's like super easy that would cost no money and would just be a computer programming type thing would be lyric placement. There's a couple of lines, I haven't seen one in a while, but there's been several times where it's just like one single word by itself on that second line. Here we call them like orphans, like you're leaving the little orphan lyric. And so that, that's one thing that's super easy to check your lyrics to make sure that it's like flowing properly with the spacing of how you're singing the song.
Oh, well, I thought you had electronic drums, so sorry, Graydon. But yeah, that's a good point too. Hope Church does maybe a leveler plugin for the Stream Mix. Yeah, I would ask, are you doing like a precision limiter on the X32 or anything else like that? We even run the stereo enhancer on ours just to kind of give it a little bit of spread on everything. So those are things that you can try. Video wise though, I mean, think the next step you could take beyond, so you got these 3 cameras, probably the next thing I would do, Graydon, is maybe try to get a roaming camera. I like just adding that as my first thing, because even if you use one of your existing cameras and make it a roaming camera, now you're opened up to so many other shots. And just throw a Teradek on it, like an A750, and now you've got infinite creativity, because you're kind of locked off on, you've got just a few certain shots that you can pop between, but that person could be getting a close up on this piano player or one of your other vocalists. So that's something I would look into. I recently put out a video of our roaming setup. If you go back just a couple of videos, let's just look at Preach though. I feel like Preach gets neglected, and it's actually really, really important. So let's listen and watch for just a moment here.
900 people in the last 7 years, and he has taken over 3 more campuses. They are now bought 17 acres of land to build a church. He's an Indian married to a white woman. All I need is one guy who crawled out of the pit. I went and met him. I said, would you?
So they're following good. A little easier there on the head-to-toe shot. It's tough. I'm glad that we don't have steps at our church anymore, because steps drive me crazy. Like doing follow up and down and left and right. Like you better have a pretty good tripod head to maintain the correct headroom. What are y'all doing for Preach, and are you doing anything special for sermon notes? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so we do the pretty much the basic, like waist up for camera 1, camera 2 is a head to toe follow. And what I try to teach our camera ops is like, at what point when the person moves, do you follow them with the camera? Because if they're just leaning back, swaying back and forth, it can kind of be a little nauseous to the viewer, especially if you've got a big, large like IMAX screen what it's on. And so, yeah, try to learn the balance of like, if I lean a little bit, do I follow, or do I really follow their shoulders and they're leaning into the movement? Then I follow with the camera. So yeah, for here, I would say if you're going to do a head to toe, like bump out just a little bit, it would be easier to follow him, especially with him being so animated walking around the stage. Or if the camera op can just lock in a little bit more with how they're tracking the subject.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. Graydon, let us know in the comments, what is your front light? Just because I'm curious to know. Man, this guy's a mover. Oh, my camera guys would hate this.
Yeah, this would be tough. The
doing
thing
good,
too
though.
is there's a big difference between a really nice, expensive fluid head and one that costs like $150. That is something I would put more money on the fluid head than I would the camera body or the lens, because that will make the biggest difference.
Yeah. We just got 2 new fluid heads that were like kind of mid-tier. I think I spent like $600 or so on each one. And they're like SCG, or I'm sure I'll do a full review on them. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. But yeah, forever we were just rocking a Manfrotto cheapy, and it was okay for just going left and right, but it didn't have dual, dampening. And so it was like, if they go down, sorry, we're locked, baby. Like we're only going left and right. Cut to a wide.
Yep.
Now, are you guys still doing your wireless? Being able to write on the screen and stuff.
Yeah, so our lead pastor, who preaches probably 60% of the time, his preference is to preach with an iPad and control his own slides. And he does this so that he can like annotate and write and underline and highlight scripture and talking points and stuff like that. So the way we do that, first of all, when we first did it, we had literally an HDMI. We went USB-C out of the iPad to HDMI. There was a decimator like taped under the table. And then we notched out, it was like a kind of like a bar height table with like a pole in the middle. And so we ran the cable through the pole and notched out the base plate to run an extension cord for power and the SDI cable. And that it worked. It was not fun for the stage team bringing that in and out, and it's just kind of like cumbersome and clunky. And so we ended up switching to an air server about a year and a half ago, it looks like a little Apple TV almost. It's sitting in our rack. It has HDMI out. We give it an Ethernet cable in for network. And it basically pops up just like an Apple TV if you were to screen share from your iPhone or iPad or whatnot. And so, yeah, that goes HDMI to that into our into a decimator, and then SDI into our router and switcher and stuff like that. And so the main difference between that and like a Apple TV is it gives you a lot more back-end control. So this is like on our own private production network so that not anybody could join. Hopefully you have that. That's like step one. You don't want somebody like screen sharing to the Apple TV in the middle of the server. That would not be fun. But on the back end of the air server, you can password protect it. You can do multiple users. So if you wanted to do like 2 or 3 phones, it auto like scales it and adjusts it in the frame. But we can boot other devices out. We can change the password really easily. And it's far more secure. There's a lot of like back end programming you can do. Like we have it when nothing's connected, it shows our signal bars with the name air server, so we can clearly see that there's no signal or no device connected and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of like our workflow.
Yeah. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, it's pinned as his first post here on his Instagram. Is it still, you think it's just more powerful than, I know ProPresenter has come out with some new annotation type stuff, or being able to like do some of that stuff. Have you compared?
When ProPresenter first dropped the like screen sharing thing where you could bring it in as like a live input, I tested it. There was a lot of latency. I don't think the end user would, like somebody sitting in the room would really notice that, but the pastor would if they're trying to really interact and draw stuff quickly. And I'm really afraid to like bog down a ProPresenter machine when it's doing so many other mission critical things. So if I can segment that to its own specific device that can work 100% of the time and be super realistic, that would be my preference. I honestly haven't played with the ProPresenter feature in the last like 6 months, so I don't know if they've made updates to it. A lot of our computers are running like 3 versions behind on ProPresenter, so I'm sorry.
I'm on, post in the comments, guys, what version Pro are you running? I'm on 7.16.2, I think.
Yeah, I only update ProPresenter if there's a feature that I read that I want, or I'm having issues with my current version. Like I did last time I did it, and I didn't have my decklink card, my desktop video updated, and it wasn't seeing my output. So like I'm like, yeah, if there's not a feature I need on that, I'm not updating it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. When we move into our new worship center here in a bit, I'll definitely go to the new version then. We're using the Decklink 8K that has like 8 outputs to run a bunch of stuff, out of it. Now, are y'all broadcasting in 4K?
We're not. There's a couple reasons. So back in October, we did just do a big camera update. We went from 18-year-old like Panasonic old school broadcast style cameras that surprisingly were still limping along 18 years later. And so we made the switch to all Komodo X's. We have like multi-dyne fiber backs. And we've got tripods and dollies and a dactyl cam and all the fun stuff. But the main reason we didn't switch to a full 4K workflow is there's a couple holdups. We need new Resi encoders. We have 4 Mac Studios that have Decklink cards. Those are the older ones that are only doing 3G. And a lot of our like main infrastructure, floor pockets and stuff, all the SDI is 3G. So the only way we could get a 12G signal back for 4K would either be like fiber converters, which we have fiber to our floor pockets, but it just adds a whole nother level of like, okay, I've got a Teradek, now I need to convert it to fiber and then get it back and convert the other way, and stuff like that. But a lot of our infrastructure, our switchers can do 4K, our routers 4K enabled with the license. So yeah, we're slowly working that way. It's just there's a lot of other steps and hurdles that it brings up.
Yeah, every single piece of the signal chain has to be 4K capable, and so one little converter can trip you up. And I mean, we're doing 4K in our new setup. We did all 12G Belden stuff everywhere. We didn't do like the SMPTE 2110 thing or go that route. So I think, it's like, don't fix what's not broken. And, it's been working for us up to this point. So we'll stick with Blackmagic and all those things. I've never had a video router, and now we have an 80x80, and I'm like,
nice.
I think this is going to change my world. I don't know. It better for as much as they cost. So
yes, I think video routers, that's something that people like quickly, if you're pulling back on budget, that's like one of the first things to go. And that is like one of the nicest piece of gear that you can easily like unlock so much potential with, as far as literally any monitor can have any source. Like the monitor behind me, I have 120 something sources I could easily patch to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it saves a lot of headaches of a bunch of random like distro adapters and stuff like that.
I was even thinking through at ProPresenter World, I've always had like multiple little screens that show all the stage displays and teleprompter and all those things, but it was like HDMI splitters before it went off to the switcher and that kind of stuff. And now I'm thinking like, should I get some little, SDI multi-monitor things in a little rack or something and be able to just, with Companion change what's going to those. How do y'all have any of that kind of stuff that you're utilizing Companion or QSYS or something for?
Yeah, so we use QSYS and Companion. QSYS does a lot of our big like infrastructure stuff. So a lot of like all of our displays are QSYS enabled for the most part. So like lobby TVs at 7 a.m. they turn themselves on, and at 10 p.m. at night they shut themselves off.
Is that a TV specific thing, like their Panasonic, commercial TVs
so
or something?
we moved to Samsung, so they're all Samsung commercial displays, and you have to read the model and stuff because only specific ones can work with QSYS. But yeah, basically you just throw a network line into it, hit it to your network, and then QSYS, you patch it on that side. And then we use QSYS for like a lot of controlling of lobby speakers. So like audio, it can switch between sources. So like how we have it set up, we have a rehearsal mode, which is basically just a Spotify computer going straight into QSYS that runs 24/7. And then we have a service mode, which is like the front of house mix. So during rehearsal, if people are in the lobby like lining up to get into the doors, they're hearing Spotify, not the band rehearsing. And then we make that swap, and it's a seamless fade to where nobody knew that we just swapped the source. And then on the app, it gets you like level controls, and you can mute certain zones and stuff like that.
Is that someone manually on a QSYS panel changing that, or is it via schedule, or how are you doing that?
So you can do both. We have 3 ways of doing it. You could schedule it. A lot of the stuff like 7 a.m., all the music in the lobby kicks on, and at 10 p.m. it shuts off, like I said earlier. We have it connected to Companion, so on a Stream Deck, we're able to trigger that. Pretty much anything.
So Companion can trigger QSYS things?
Yes, you just add it as another connection, and you have to type in the code and stuff, so it takes a little like playing around with it. But yeah, you can pretty much anything button you can press on the QSYS app, you can assign to a button on Stream Deck or on Companion, which you could also like do a trigger and schedule it through Companion to trigger QSYS. So there's lots of ways of doing that.
Okay. See, I've always thought of like BitFocus and QSYS in like 2 different things accomplishing a similar type thing, because we're way into Companion stuff, and now we're getting QSYS for the first time, and I'm like, what am I going to really use this for? I don't know. Like, I feel like Companion is just doing it all, so that's interesting to hear you can kind of make them talk.
Yeah, the big difference between like QSYS and Companion would be QSYS has a lot of like of their own hardware where you can connect audio in and out. You really can't do that with Companion.
Yeah.
So that's kind of some of the limitations there. And a lot of like smart higher end like commercial displays you can also connect through Companion and don't even need to use QSYS to control them and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, we went off on a tangent there, guys.
Sorry.
Hopefully, like I said, I'm selfish on these. That's why I'm doing this, is because I want to learn. So, but no, let's go on to our third live stream review here. This one comes to us from Terry at Unionville Alliance Church, and I'll get their stream going here and tell you a little bit about it. So they're rocking Sony HD PTZs. ATEM mixer, and they're doing direct outs from the D Live, like Dante to Reaper, to do a dedicated mix. So let's listen.
We stand and lift up our hands, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship Him now. How great, how awesome is He. Together we sing, everyone sing, oh, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory.
There is Unionville Alliance Church. Excited to hear your thoughts on this one, Colby. I just really appreciate the people that are leading worship out front on this praise team are all expressive, and they are worshiping like they are being an example of worship. And I just think that's an awesome thing whenever people are fully engaged and leading people that way. So let's talk about audio video lighting, things you're seeing with the stream.
Yeah, when the camera was like started tight and it started panning, I was like, okay, there's like 3 vocalists, 4, and it kept panning. I was like, oh my goodness, there's like, what is it, 8,
Yeah.
maybe 9. So they kept going. That's a challenge to mix that many vocals.
It's a lot of RF.
I'll let you talk about like audio if you want, but I'll hit like lighting and video. That's probably best.
Sounds great.
The cameras, like I feel like the colors look good. Or if you go back to the last frame, the last camera, I feel like that one looks pretty close. When you go to the one after that, there's a difference in camera settings. So obviously, like right there, it looks like the exposure is significantly higher. So I don't know if maybe these cameras are running in like auto settings with exposure or iris control, but there just is a couple of like inconsistencies between camera to camera.
Sure.
But overall, I don't feel like the color, the saturation, I think it looks decent. There's not much I would focus on tweaking there.
Yeah.
As far as lyrics, I do feel like the lyrics are really, really chunky right there, especially if you're not using this for like in the room. I could understand if you're doing iMag and you need to make the lyrics a little bigger for that situation, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So personally, I would just shrink the lyrics by like half the size.
Yeah.
Because they're almost like really in your face. There was a couple of like video directing choices where it was like really, really slow T-bar, which could be done in a stylistic approach. I only use the T-bar really slow for like one time of the year, and that's like Silent Night at Christmas Eve. Yeah, just like that. Sometimes it's a little distracting in my opinion, especially if it doesn't fit the moment. If you were to like watch a TV show or a big broadcast, news, stuff like that, you really will not see dissolves like that very often. And so that's something I would consider. But yeah, like right there, the exposure, I would just drop that down. And it looks like there's some like inconsistencies with front light based on the person's position.
Yeah.
So that could be playing have an effect on that.
Yeah, it looks like it must be an auto exposure because it's definitely adjusting for skin tones a little bit as it pans across. And one thing on this camera I'm even noticing, it almost appears like it might be like 1080i, like interlaced. If you look at the singers on the right, I'm seeing those kind of old school interlaced lines. So you might check and make sure you're outputting in progressive for that camera. Yeah, I did notice even, I think like at 18 minutes, I made a note for your speaker. This is why I think it must be auto, is like with his skin tones, same front light, you know, it's much more yellowy orange on his skin tones, but then, you know, on the other people, it adjusted more. And so I don't know if it's because he's wearing all black clothing and it's like, I can't figure this out. But definitely, you know, go in and check and make sure all your white balances are matching up and all that stuff. Right. What are you thinking about lighting?
One thing with lighting, what we do here a lot is have a lot of consistency between like week to week so that we can easily recall settings. For me, like I have a general guideline for what camera exposure ISO should be during worship versus like a sermon, so that like we're at a sermon intro video, I can preset all the cameras to the right settings, and as the lights fade up and we start the sermon, everything's really close. Maybe fine tune just a couple things. But what I would try to do is focus on consistency between different parts of the service, because like we said, like worship, the exposure is significantly better, and when you get the talking head, either the lights are much brighter than they are during worship, or the camera is just freaking out and exposing for itself. So I would set my exposure to be manual, and really hope to not change the exposure too much and do that more on the lighting side with intensity. So that's probably the first place I would go with lighting.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, we rarely have to shift our camera's exposures too much. I mean, they might have to dial ISO up and down a click because we're doing that with lighting, you know, and when you don't,
Right.
It doesn't appear like this church has windows and shifting lighting changes, so you can definitely plan for that. Now, I will say, with my older camcorder that's sitting up there on the shelf, it always made things appear a lot like blacks were crushed and whites were blown out because the dynamic range just wasn't there.
Definitely.
So in person, it may feel more balanced and those kinds of things to our eyes. It's just your cameras are struggling to do that, so you may have to play with lighting to account for that, where the people in the back are not just crushed blacks and people up front are not blown out too much. Audio wise, I'm thinking you guys probably don't use tracks, because like at the very beginning I hadn't heard this one in a while. Oh no, it wasn't that. I heard him start with like a drum count off. I was impressed, because usually it's just the lady in my ear telling me when I'm coming in. So
Emily, it's nice
see.
to see so many faces on it. God.
Here we go.
So let's stand this morning and let's worship together.
So I would say, even if it were me, I would be having my pianist at least like pad underneath that, while I'm kind of giving that exhortation, as we say in church, as we get everybody ready to worship, and just to kind of flow into that song. That's something I would do. And then the other things I heard was like, it does appear that you have an electric guitarist, you have some other guitars in there, even some keys along with your pianist. Your pianist is like your lead instrument, it appears, in a lot of churches. I know that is the truth. As a son of a church pianist who has her master's in piano performance, she thought she was the metronome, and she probably was a lot of times, and had to be, because music directors, we used to rush all the time. But I think it's the music balance is kind of following that as the lead, but it's just missing a little bit of the presence of other instruments for the song. So I would try to mix those in accordingly, just to give a little more fullness. I think the drums sound really nice, I'm hearing them in a lot of those vocalist mics, I think, which is it's bleeding a little into the room because we got this full drum set. So
It looks like, dude, there's no shield. It's just the cymbal baffles.
is it the baffle that I'm seeing kind of bounce around and
I
reflect
think
back there?
so. I don't think it's a full shield.
Have you tried baffles? I mean, I feel like they're getting a little out of style now.
Yeah, speaking on behalf of our audio engineer that works here, we used to have baffles. That was it. Personally, I think they look visually better, but we had a lot of challenges where vocals are 10 feet in front of the drum kit, and so there's a lot of natural bleed there. And so we went with I don't remember the name. It starts with like Gotham or something.
Yeah.
Drum enclosures or whatever.
Joplin, GOP.
Yeah, that. Yeah. We went with that, which is like, ours is like a partial. It doesn't have a lid or a back piece. So it's just like the 180-degree shield on the front, which looks really sleek. It does cause issues with like camera reflections and stuff like that. But I think, like I said, audio is more important than lighting, and then lighting is more important than video. So yeah, I would prioritize the shield if you're having issues like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen people, a lot of them that had the baffles kind of went away. It's like, yes, it does keep that immediate reflection out, but like if you've got a back wall that's bouncing it out, or just having the open top, it's not going to help a ton. And it could be sometimes a mic capsule choice too. I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable about those kinds of things. Those look like just normal 58s to me, which should be fine. So, but if you're using maybe one of the KSMs or something, or one of the DPAs that is more going to pick up more, I don't know. So that's something you could always look at too. And then just having your people be conscious if they're over there in front of the drums, like, hey, keep your mic like right here in front of your chest when you're not singing. Might help a little bit. So those are some thoughts we can give you, man. I think you guys are doing a great job there at Unionville Alliance Church, and I really appreciate Colby giving us his thoughts on that. Man, I've learned a lot, and so I just want to say thanks for hopping on the live stream today, Colby.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, give it up in the chat. Lots of great stuff here. I'm curious, Colby, as we kind of wrap this stream up, as somebody who's I see as a leader in the church technology kind of forefront. I got to meet you at Churchfront Conference, and I really enjoyed not only your presentation, but like your heart behind everything you're doing. But I see you as, somebody that's really leading the way and that I can copy off of. And so I'm curious, what are you excited about in the church tech world? You got any new tools or websites or techniques or, anything that you're playing with right now that you're excited about?
I've spent a lot of time recently and this is not something new. It's just something that I finally got the time and started playing around with, which was Companion Satellite, before we were using just the regular old companion on each individual device, and we have like 6 stream decks around the building. And so if we like updated a button on like one specific device, then we've got to like make that change everywhere. And so we just did the swap to satellite, where we have like a rack mounted Mac Mini that's doing a couple of miscellaneous stuff, but it's really dedicated just to run satellite, and then or run the main companion machine, and then everything else is satellite, which we've gotten really complex with like how stream decks are laid out and pages that only certain ones can access, and how do you do it when you have like the studio one, which is like the rack mounted versus a tiny
Bro,
one and an XL.
Reading my mind, because I was looking at that setup for a studio version, and I'm like, but all of ours are set up around the XL. If it's a miniature version of that, you can kind of just make like a version of page that's the smaller version. But like, how are you making that work?
Yeah, so I basically created like, if I had pages 1 through 10 for the regular stream decks, then I started on page 11 or 12, and then I just remapped the buttons to that layout. And then in satellite I assigned it, or in the main companion software, I basically assigned it so that only that stream deck has access to that set amount of pages. And we have it so we have like a home page, so I hit home, and then it takes me to, instead of like shuffling through a bunch of pages. And so you just lock them down based on what device can access what page. Okay, so in the main companion setup, you can actually, you can see all those different devices that are the satellites? Yeah, so it gives you, I think it's like surface, I think it pops up as like services or something. And so you individually see each stream deck. I renamed it so I could like understand what Stream Deck 2561 is, like, what is that? And then you can have it so when it powers up, it recalls on a specific page, or you can give it access to everything, or you can give it access to some things. And so it's really cool, and it's basically free. So yeah, I mean, we've done satellite now for quite a while, and we're pretty deep into it, and I have it in multiple stations, but I didn't know you could do that stuff. So that's really interesting. We utilize a lot of the emulators on screens, instead of having to have a physical interface. Have you played with like Screen Deck any, with, building your own custom layouts and things? I saw some people posting on that, but no, I haven't. Yeah, that's something I'm interested in, as building out like the classic, was it Willow Creek that did the mic board or something, for my backstage stuff, because we're moving to all actual like wireless that has network ability. So because our old stuff I can monitor any of that, so I'm curious about building out something. I've seen people do that even with companion, like using the different modules to create your own little backstage, like here's who's on this mic, and this maps up to this charging bay and all that kind of stuff, which is, it's fun, but it's gonna be done later on down the road. We don't have time right now. So well, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that you're still, even as a big QSYS guy, like you're still using BitFocus in cool ways. So I'll be looking for that Instagram reel to teach us all how to do it. This week. I'll get it this week. Yay. You got nothing going on. I mean, just the conference. No. Yeah. Well, you better get in there and help with that LED wall load in, I guess. So that's right. I really appreciate you taking some time today on a Friday to pour back into the church tech community and give us your expertise, and just hearing your heart. So thank you, man. Let's do it again soon. Appreciate it. All right, guys, you guys give it up for Colby Griner, and man, just super thankful for him hopping on the live stream today. I hope that you were able to glean some, tips and tricks for doing live streaming to the best of our ability, and all for God's glory. Like, all this stuff is just stuff if that's all it is, right? At the end of the day, if we are just worrying about lighting and audio and video, yes, it can be an offering that we can give and a sacrifice of praise oftentimes as you're up at the church at midnight, running cables through the ceiling like I was last night. But more than that, like, the heart behind it has to be there, right? And so I just want to encourage you this weekend, as you move into your service, just spend time praying, asking God to move, just as much time as you ask him to, not have gremlins in your systems. So remember, guys, at the end of the day, we can do a lot of great things. Let's keep doing it, all for God's glory. And we will see you guys in the next live stream. It's going to be really good next month. So make sure that you hit that notify me button whenever I put it up. All right. If you're a part of the creative crew, we're going to hop into that Zoom session in just a moment. So get ready for that, and I'll get that fired up.
Thanks, you guys, again for being here for our live stream. Have a great one.